The next clear sense that we're going to talk about today is clairalience, your sense of clear smelling. This is a less common clair sense, but can be incredibly useful. You suddenly get a smell of something that isn't physically present in the environment, but the scent carries memories, feelings, or even guidance. Unlike clairvoyance or clairaudience, this perception is through your sense of smell. It's when this one kind of sneaks up on you. Because it's often more subtle. It's not like you suddenly smell a bonfire and you kind of like, oh, that fear feeling of that there's fire. It sneaks up on you, but it's one of the most visceral senses that we have. Our sense of smell is much, much more accurate than our sense of taste, as I'm sure you're aware. And it has many, many more subtle nuances to it. This clairalience bypasses your sense of logic. It goes straight into the limbic part of your brain, a really ancient, primordial part of your brain, which was very important in our way past lineage to keeping us alive. It saves us from being eaten, basically. The basics parts of it. And it's often the seat of memory and emotion. It's a very evocative state. It's always been sacred, our sense of smell. In ancient temples, incense was burnt in an incense burner from herbs, resins, not only to purify the air, but also to invoke the presence of gods, angels, and our ancestors. Shamans use sacred smoke to call in spirits and shift your consciousness. This is a sage stick. And the Catholic Church, if you're aware, still uses incense in its swinging thurimbals of frankincense for exactly the same purpose. Science tells us that smell is one of our oldest senses, evolutionary speaking. It's wired directly into the amygdala and the hippocampus, which are deep parts of our brain embryologically. They contain the brain's emotional and memory centers. That's why the weeniest hint of perfume can literally bring you back to decades of memories from years and years ago. Lavender, for instance, or rose petals will take you back to a much loved grandparent. Clairalience may simply be an intuitive activation of these deep sensory centers, but they allow us to smell things beyond what's physically present at the time. Clearly, they help with your memory. They bring back memories of locations, people, that specific aftershave or a brand of tobacco that a loved one used to smoke might be a sign of their presence. It unlocks deep memories and emotions, and so it can be used as a potent healing tool. Clairsentients, or some clairsentients, are also able to smell someone or something and smell if something's off. I don't mean that we're rotting, but you can get a sour scent flavour or a metallic one that warns that person that there's a danger or something is not quite right. And it often goes along with sensitivity to specific energies as well. So as a clairalience person who has this sense of clair that's heightened, you can get a sense of roses in a room, and that reminds you of a particular person or a sense of feeling loved or that a loved one is near. Random sense of tobacco that your grandfather used to smoke in his pipe, and you might get a sense of his guidance as a result straight afterwards. Sometimes interestingly, dogs are particularly good at this, and we have medical sensing smelling dogs now that are trained for this, but they will pick up specific illnesses because they give off a particular scent. Now, as human beings, our sense of smell is actually pretty rubbish. But many animals, hedgehogs, dogs, etc., have much heightened senses of smell than we do, and they use those for information. So you give off, and it does happen sometimes with humans, but certain diseases give off specific chemicals, smells, and you smell that and you're like, oh, that person's alcoholic, and you can't smell the alcohol, but you can smell the unease and ill health, etc. And sometimes when you're meditating, you might get a sense of a perfume or a herb, even if they're not physically present. It's a sign that there is a spiritual connection that you have tuned into. So your sense of clairalience can be worked on. If you think about your childhood home, what did the pantry smell of? Or was there a particular odour in a bathroom that you really remember? Maybe it was a lavender soap, or something in the garden. Was there a herb in the garden, southernwood or lavender or a bay tree? I've always been very attracted to oak trees and poplar trees, particularly first ones in the spring, and have a particular scent to them. So that brings you back into that place and time at a blink. Sometimes you can also get a sense of a scent when there's nothing else around, when you're kind of in a more of a meditative state. Smoke, flowers, food. It might relate to a person or something happening in the future that may be important to you at that point in time, or will show up later. And emotions are really heightened with our senses of smell. So take note if you relate a particular scent to a particular emotion. They can be useful. Learning to use your clairalience sense can be enhanced by practice, and practicing with different scents. So different herbs, lavender, sage, rosemary, for instance, or essential oils. This one happens to be jasmine, one of my favourite. Do it one at a time. Gently sit and take a smell in of whatever the substance happens to be. Close your eyes so that you are just focused on your sense of scent and taste, because the two kind of mingle a bit. Notice what emotions or images or thoughts show up. It trains you to use your sense of smell in an expanded way. You can also use it during meditation. You light a candle. It's my trusty little candle. It's getting a little bit low now. And as you sit and meditate, you might find that you get a whiff of someone's presence, a perfume that they used to wear, or something to do with that particular image or location. Because it's less common, this sense, jotting down when you notice something like that can be useful. It might give you a message later in the future. So clairalience might sound like really kind of the oddball in the Clair family, but it's deeply powerful because smell means so much emotionally or mentally to people. It plugs straight through into those really primordial neurological structures in your brain. And in my own healing work, this is one of my weaker clair senses. But I do get unexpected sense when I'm working sometimes with clients, or when I'm out in the garden, and something will really come right through, but it's not in the garden at the time. And it signals a shift in energy or a shift in perception. And it's really helpful when I'm working with some of my clients to use sense of smell as well. It gives you like a different tangibility to their experience. So it's your inner compass of aromas around you, good or bad. Obviously, we all have opinions about aromas. It's actually one of the very markedly opinionated clairs that we have. And it's often unseen, but never far away. So I hope that that's useful, and you need to just keep it under your nose. That's Gayle Palmer at the Living Elements Clinic, where your health is my priority.